Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to another episode of Digital Caveman Presents Surprise Thursday. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with my top 10 Surprise Thursdays of 2023. Let's get into it! Here's the Surprise Thursday 2023 honorable mention. The McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Kingdom Come Batman. And I have to say, this is a really, really good looking figure, other than some very minor issues. One is the gap in the wings where it hinges together. And again, like I said, it's a very minor thing. And then the pins in the knees, at least the upper part, really stand out because the leg is all gray and the pin is black. So those are really the issues. Now, the range of movement on this figure isn't probably as well as you might expect it to be, but because he's an armor figure, that's the reason why, you know. Had to make it look armored because it's an armored figure, and when you do that, sometimes you tend to lose bits of articulation in the figure. Now, this is of course based off of Alex Ross's Kingdom Come artwork, which is one of my favorite artists, so to speak. He has that very realistic painted style, and it's really great artwork. If you've never read Kingdom Come, I do suggest that you do it, and especially pay attention to the artwork because it is awesome, as you can see from this awesome figure right here. Just not quite awesome enough to make the actual list, and only an honorable mention. But here is the honorable mention, Surprise Thursday 2023. The McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Kingdom Come Batman. Here's number 10 Surprise Thursday of 2023. The Valaverse Action Force Gemini. And I have to say, I'm really loving the Action Force line from Valaverse. Even though it's mostly reuse. You know, they come up with a few sculpts and then they just reuse, which is appropriate for this line because it's being military and military uniforms. And anyway, you get where I'm going with that. So the reuse is very appropriate for this line. And I think this year they really knocked it out of the park with their female figures, the head sculpts, the deco, and the just general, they're really bad vibes, I guess you could say, you know, and not necessarily bad as in evil, but they are just bad as in, like, the face sculpt on Gemini here. You don't want to see this lady coming at you on the battlefield because she is PO'd about something and she is going to shoot and all kinds of stuff because that is what she does. But there she is, my friends. My number 10 Surprise Thursday of the year. The Valaverse Action Force Gemini. Here's my number 9 Surprise Thursday of 2023. The s.h.f Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Trunks, the boy from the future. And I have to say, from the standpoint of the articulation and the sculpt, is very, very good. In fact, it's great as figure arts figures often are. And sometimes there's issues. But anyway, on all the ones that I have, which are all Dragon Ball Z, I don't really have that many issues with it. And the ones that I do have are very, very minor, especially with this figure. It's very, very minor issues that I had with this figure that kept him from being a little higher up on the list. And one is the strap that holds the sword scabbard in place. You know, you have to be careful when you're articulating the figure as to not pop it loose, and then it takes a little while to get it back in there, and so it's a little bit of an issue. And then his jacket in the back, as it's coming around now, you can see the way that it's split. It's a visual issue due to articulation, which is nothing new for action figures. That's as long as there's been action figures, there's always been, you have to sacrifice sometimes sculpt for articulation, or you have to sacrifice articulation for sculpt. It works both ways. But anyway, this figure lives up to its figure arts roots, and it's a very, very good figure. Again, those issues I mentioned, very, very minor things that just kept him from moving up a little further on the list. But there he is, number 9, Surprise Thursday of 2023, S.h.f Figure Arts, Dragon Ball Z, Trunks, the boy from the future. Here's my number 8 pick for Surprise Thursday 2023. The McFarlane Toys Warhammer 40K Tyrannid Gene Stealer. And while I don't really know a lot about Warhammer 40K, I saw this guy and I thought he was going to make a really cool monster to use with other things. You could use him with Spawn, you can use him with He-Man, you could use him with Marvel Legends. I mean, he just has a wide array of uses as a monster. And his articulation is good. His balance, as you can see, he does have to have a stand for this particular pose at least. Now, there are some poses you can get with him without the stand. But this particular pose, which I thought was very monstrous, and this is the way he is in my display currently. So his balance isn't all there, but he's a very monstrous looking figure. And again, I like the fact, number one, that it was on clearance when I bought it, so I got it pretty cheap. And the fact that it just has a wide array of uses for me through other lines. So here it is, the number 8 Surprise Thursday of 2023. The McFarlane Toys Warhammer 40K Tyrannid Gene Stealer. Number 7 for Surprise Thursday of 2023 is the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Dark Knight Trilogy Joker. And while I can say, at least for me, the sculpt of this figure doesn't really capture the likeness of Heath Ledger, at least in the face. I mean, it's enough that you know that's who it's supposed to be, and which Batman universe, so to speak, it's supposed to be from. But and again, I'm not the biggest fan of this version of the Joker. It's okay. It's much better than, we'll say, some newer renditions of the Joker in live action, and we'll leave that at that. But I will have to say, there were some good things about this figure, obviously, or it wouldn't be number 7 on my list. I do like the deco on it. I do like that it does capture the essence of that character. I like the fact that not only did it come with a stand, but it came with a stack of money that pegs into the stand, and then the figure then pegs into the stack of money. There's a peg for his feet on there. So that it actually really surprised me that it had that feature. Now, one glaring omission that this figure didn't have, he did not come with the firearm that you see that he has here on the turntable. I added that to the figure. It's one of the larger looking weapons from one of the Valaverse Action Force weapons packs. I don't remember which one, but there it is. And I thought that it was of appropriate size, and it looks appropriate for this Joker. But there he is, my friends. Number 7 on the list, the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Dark Knight Trilogy Joker. Number 6 on the Surprise Thursday Top 10 list of 2023 is the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Dark Knight Trilogy Batman. And while I don't particularly care for the solid cape on this figure, I may at some point see about getting something different to go on it. But I like the gold contrasts to the rest of the uniform. I like how it has a little bit of black. Well, it has the black bodysuit, and then there's a little bit of black on some of the armor pieces, but most of it's like dark gray rather than jet black, I guess you could call it, that Batman may usually use, especially on film. But the sculpt is really nice. It's very, very detailed. And, it does, to me, even though, it's only got a little bit of actual face showing, it does to me look like Christian Bale. At least to me. Your opinion might not match up with mine, but that's okay. And this, the sculpt of it doesn't really capture that Batman Begins look. And it has a little bit of Dark Knight look, but it's really more Dark Knight Rises than anything else. And while that's okay, I guess that's like the ultimate version of the suit for that line of movies. And while, of course, Dark Knight was a better film than Dark Knight Rises, again, the suit met, I guess, its ultimate expression in Dark Knight Rises, because it portrayed, it had been several years that he's had trial and error to improve the suit, and he had been retired for some time and then came back, similar to Dark Knight Returns. And there was a couple of things in there that were pretty much lifted right out of Dark Knight Returns, but that's fine too. But as far as the figure goes, it's a very, very detailed sculpt. And yes, there's not a whole lot of paint apps on it, but where they are, they do stand out, just like in the movie. Well, that's it for number 6 for Surprise Thursday of 2023. The McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Dark Knight Trilogy Batman. Here we are, my friends, starting to get into the nitty-gritty. The top 5 of Surprise Thursday. And here we have the number 5 entry for Surprise Thursday of 2023. The NECA Real Toys Predator 2 Stalker Predator. And what is not to like about this figure? The sculpt is great. It's fantastic. Lots of little itty bitty details. And not just that, but the decos on this figure are equally fantastic. They are equal to the sculpt. And then you add some of the weapons in there. The shoulder blaster, and it has articulation. And you've got the throwing disc, and you can holster it. He's got the spear, which he has here, that's extended, but it also came with one that wasn't extended. And this one pretty much came with all the accessories that I wanted, which is kind of why I went with this one over maybe the Jungle Predator, which didn't have quite as many accessories. And I really like the look of this one. It's just, this to me does say Predator for sure. And I really enjoy it. NECA, period NECA has, a lot of fine detail in a lot of their figures and a lot of fine paint apps to go with that. And they're very good. The only real issues I have with this figure, and they're not really issues, they're more visual problems for me, I guess, is the fact that they've been using this particular Predator mold, and I'm not talking about the overlays, but I'm talking about the base of the figure itself. They have been using this mold for quite some time, so I would really like to see them update it, not necessarily sculpt wise, but maybe get rid of the pins and the elbows and the knees, just to give it a much more striking appearance, because it's not going to increase the articulation range that you get if you go from pinned to pinless, and that might be why they're not doing it. But I really think this figure, or this body that they keep reusing for Predators, deserves a bit of an upgrade, because they have used it and used it and used it. And again, not that there's anything wrong with that, it works for this line. But there he is, my friends, number 5 of Surprise Thursday 2023, the NECA Real Toys Predator 2 Stalker Predator. Here's the number 4 Surprise Thursday of 2023. And I'm sure you guys knew that Action Force was going to make a return in this list. And here she is, the number 4 2023 Surprise Thursday is the Joe Fest exclusive Valaverse Action Force Warpath Eclipse. And even though, again, like I've said before, there's a lot of reuse going on in this line, which is appropriate. And the look of this figure, she is mad as all get out, and she is coming for somebody. And just that screaming head, and the face paint that she has on, the war paint, the tattoo you can see right there on her arm. I mean, this figure is awesome. And I really dig this figure. It was very close for me to figure which version of Eclipse was going to be in the top 10, whether it was going to be this one or if it was going to be the regular version, and this one just barely beat it out. And I didn't feel like it was fair to put 2 Eclipses in here, so maybe I could have put them both in here in the same spot. But I decided not to do that because this figure, even though it's just by a little bit, does outshine the normal version, in my opinion. Your mileage, of course, may vary. But just, this is a very striking looking figure. And the deco for it is awesome. Now, they've also, you know, they did the Eclipse gear pack, and it does have this head in it without all the war paint that you can use with the regular figure. But I think that it really, really works much better with Warpath Eclipse rather than the standard version. But there you have it, my friends. Number 4 of Surprise Thursday 2023. The Joe Fest exclusive and Valaverse.com exclusive. Valaverse Action Force Warpath Eclipse. Okay, you guys had to know that this figure was coming on the list somewhere. But here she is at number 3 of Surprise Thursday 2023. The Valaverse Action Force Pandora. And I have to say, you know, I'm not that big a fan of the side cut thing. But this, it really, really works for this figure. And the deco across the figure is just great. The hair, the eyes, the lips, the tampo tattoos, the tattoo on the back of her head. I love her vest with the holsters for the pistols. And it's just a really, really striking figure. And to me, she looks like she would hang out with the Dreadnoks and Zarana particularly. And I can't say I'm a big fan of her accessories per se. I'm not a big fan of the gun that she comes with. And, you know, the little scythe or sickle or ice pick. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Combat axe, maybe. It doesn't really look like an axe, though. But those things, I'm not the biggest fan of those. I love her pistols. I love her knife. And I did get the upgrade pack for her. And it does come with some different stuff. So, eventually, after I review it, am going to swap some stuff out for her. And it really makes me wish I had gotten that bloody variant. As much as I really enjoy this figure, I do wish I had gotten the bloody variant, but I missed out on it. Maybe it'll come back as a special deployment at some point. I don't really expect that it will, but maybe we can cross our fingers and hope. But here she is, my friends. Number 3 of Surprise Thursday 2023. The Valaverse Action Force Pandora. We are almost there, my friends. Here is number 2 of Surprise Thursday 2023. The NECA Dungeons and Dragons War Duke. And again, everything I said earlier about the Stalker Predator holds true for this guy as far as the detail of the sculpt and the deco work. And this guy was very, very, very close to being number 1. In fact, he was so close to being number 1, he was number 2. So, there is that. One of the biggest things that really kept him from being number 1 is the strap overlay of his uniform across his chest and stuff. It tends to hamper the articulation a bit, but other than that, this is a darn near perfect rendition of this figure. Now, he does have single hinge and swivel at the elbows and the knees, but it doesn't really seem to affect it that much as far as the articulation goes. So I don't mind it that much when it really helps the sculpt, but it doesn't really hinder things any. Another thing about this figure is the flame effect that goes on the sword, and it is an effect that slides over the blade of the sword. You have to be it's a tight fit. You have to be very careful with it, and the flame is not real soft plastic, so I don't know how much heating it up would help it. But, you know, as long as you're really careful with it and slide it on the blade in small increments, I think you'll be fine. But just don't try to, like, grab the sword at the base and put the flame on the tip and just slide it, because you more than likely end up breaking the blade if you do that. But the sculpt is fantastic. The deco on it is fantastic. I like the fact that one of his daggers, or his short sword, you know, it has some gold chain on it. It feels like it's kind of facing the wrong way, but that may be the way that it's supposed to be. I don't know. And I really, really wanted this guy. It was one that I had in the original Dungeons & Dragons LJN line, and, you know, I don't really know about how much he was used in the game during that time. I know he was a character in the game that, you know, was utilized, I guess, in some of the stories or whatnot. But I remember him being on the cartoon, one episode, I think, and he just looks super awesomely cool. His shield has lots of detail in it, just like the rest of the figure. And one other thing I want to point out is the tips of his helmet are really, really pointy, and they will poke you if you are not careful. In fact, there's a small hole somewhere in my green screen where, when I was doing his review, he fell over and it literally poked a hole in the fabric. And so it's nothing major, but just be aware that when you handle this figure, you may get stabbed from his helmet points. And I probably shouldn't have used that particular term, because YouTube may flag it. Who knows? I don't know. But here we go, my friends. Number 2 of Surprise Thursday 2023. The NECA Dungeons & Dragons War Duke. Ultimate War Duke, as a matter of fact. Here we are, my friends. If you've watched this far, you've made it all the way to the moment that you've probably been waiting for. The number one, or my number one, Surprise Thursday of 2023. The S.H. Figure Arts Super Saiyan Vegeta Super Saiyan Blood Awakened. And I reviewed, was it just 2? At least, this is the second S.H. Figure Arts Vegeta that I reviewed this year. I don't think I did any of the Dragon Stars Vegetas this year, but regardless, I really don't know to tell you whether it's this figure or just my love for this character that put him in the number 1 position. This is, of course, from Dragon Ball Z, which is my favorite Dragon Ball series. He's Super Saiyan. He's in the Saiyan armor, which is to me, ultimate Vegeta, because, you know, he's so cocky, and he becomes Super Saiyan cocky once he learns to transform to a Super Saiyan. And the fact that he comes with this crossed arm accessory, I think this is one of the greatest Vegeta accessories ever. Every single Vegeta action figure should come with a set of crossed arms, because that is just so Vegeta. He crosses his arms probably as much as Ahsoka from Star Wars, if you're not familiar. But I would assume most of my audience is familiar with Star Wars, as well as these other properties that I review stuff for. But the articulation is great, the sculpt is great, and since it's based on animation, you know, there's not a lot of deep detail in it, but I mean, look at the muscles on this guy, look at the spikes on his hair, and they are sharp, they are pointy, and they will stab you. So watch out when you're, you know, changing out face plates, or you pop the head off to swap it out with another head, which is another thing that if you have this figure and you also have the superhero Vegeta from Superhero, you can swap the heads on this guy, and you can have the regular non-Super Saiyan form of Vegeta if you want. Now the skin tones are slightly off, but seeing as how this Vegeta, you only see that little bit of his neck, it's not that big of a deal, really. Now when you put this head on the superhero body, of course there's a lot more skin on that figure, so it's a, you know, it's a little bit more noticeable. But on this one, it's not quite so much. So if you have both of these figures, you can do a head swap and have both versions of Vegeta. But there he is, my friends, the number one Surprise Thursday, or my number one Surprise Thursday of 2023. The S.H. Figure Arts Super Saiyan Vegeta Super Saiyan Blood Awakened. That, my friends, concludes my Surprise Thursday Top 10 of 2023. I hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view that I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews, or just help the channel out further, or both, that's even better. And don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.